The next category is media, awarded to an individual male or female who has achieved prominence in the creation or distribution of surfing content in print, digital, film, TV, or live event as a publisher, editor, photographer, writer, or another position of prominence in the surfing community, regionally, nationally, and internationally. The East Coast Hall of Fame is proud to induct Florida's own Darrell Jones. Growing up in Miami and Melbourne Beach, Florida, Darrell was an avid surfer, a good surfer, who picked up the camera and never looked back. He became an exclusive staff photographer for Surfer magazine starting from the late 70s. Darrell followed in the footsteps of future East Coast Hall of Fame members Larry Pope and Bruce Walker. His critically acclaimed work provided the next generation of East Coast surfers exposure on the international stage through his photos that appeared in the glossy Surfer magazine pages. And he scored the first ever East Coast photo on the cover of Surfer magazine, the Bible. Jones's exceptional work for Surfer covered many years, documenting Florida's rising stars at local breaks, as well as throughout the Caribbean and Hawaii's North Shore. When he arrived in Hawaii, he became well known for shooting high-quality images of the world's best surfers. Traveling and photographing the world's elite-level surfers became his passion, and his photography became among the sport's very finest. McNaughton will attest to that. This guy was phenomenal. He had 12 Surfer magazine covers, multiple interior full-page spreads, and his travels took him to every well-known surf country on the globe, as well as adventuring to newly found surf locations. I was fortunate enough, I said, Darrell, I went to the Galapagos, there's waves there. So he talked to Surfer magazine. We did the first article in the Galapagos Islands, and I was very thrilled to be a part of that. During his run, it was a well-known fact that Jones was considered to be the best surfer out of all the world's prominent surf photographers. This guy rips. Went to Puerto Rico with him, I was blown away. No surprise that he knew exactly when to press the shutter. Jones's incredible photography has graced issues as notable as publications as Islands, Outside, and many other national and international publications. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my great friends, Darrell Jones.
Hunter and I go back a long ways and some crazy experiences around the world, and some we won't speak about, I guess. But anyways, it's nice to be back in the U.S. I've been living overseas for the past 20 plus years, so it's good to see old friends and appreciate seeing them and talking story again. And probably if I started on stories, I'd be here for 4 hours, and they kept saying, keep it short, keep it short. So unlike my colleagues, I didn't bring a dossier of notes. So I'll keep it short. So at least with me, you won't have to get the hook out, Hunter. So anyways, it's great being back here. It's warm. France has been cold, extremely cold winter, so it's good to be back here. And I appreciate the fact that after 40 years that the voting board recognized my work from such a long time ago. So it's humbling and very appreciative, so it's nice. And just since Bob's the star of the evening, Bob McNaughton works for the competition when I was a senior photographer at Surfer magazine, so we were just talking stories a few minutes ago, and I guess I got them pretty upset when I got the first cover of the East Coast. And their staff photographer was there, but he wasn't in the water. So he got scolded, and and I heard about it later. So it was a good chuckle and good dick. But anyways, so I want to also appreciate that my brothers traveled to come here and help assist me in making arrangements with hotels and what. It's a little bit tough from overseas to get everything done. So my brother Mark and Drew, thank you. Also, also a few of my surfing buddies from high school are here. Kevin White, Richard Dombrowski, and they traveled up here as well. So it's kind of good to see them and many of the people I haven't seen in so long. So it's great. So I really appreciate the outpouring of love from everybody here that I've seen that I haven't run into in 40 plus years. So it's great. It's really humbling to see, so many wonderful people. Matt Keckley, Jim Cartland, all these guys, and Matt's made me some great boards that I still ride. So it's good. Also, I'd like to thank Bruce Walker for his support and his guidance and nurturing when I was a young photographer. Not only did he help me with the photography, but he got me sponsorship with as a part of their team riders, and also Bain surfboards from California at the time. So it was great. And then I sort of moved on into photography because at some point there was no professional circuit, and I don't think I would have made it anyways. But it was great. So I moved into photography, and Surfer kind of took me under the wing. Art Brewer there, and it just went from snowballed from there. We went from assignment to assignment, cover to cover. And at one point during a stretch, I was getting a cover every third issue. So every 3 months, I was getting a cover Surfer magazine, which was just remarkable at the time. So it was a wonderful time in my life. And I think about just how everything was ad-libbed. The Surfer goes, okay, you finished these assignments. We want you to go to Australia. So I said, sure, no problem. When do I go? And they said, next week. I said, perfect. And so I jump on a plane, fly over there, just winging it like most of my life. And I get there on the beach, and I knew I had a buddy, Steve Jones, there, and he sort of helped me out, and had a local shaper there building a board. So I was on the beach at Burley Heads shooting the Stubbies contest. And so I was sort of reflecting back on this, and Mark Fu, who most people know of him, anyways, he was a very sharp and media savvy guy and was really good at promotion. So he comes up to me and goes, hey, Darrell, what are you doing? I said, well, I don't know. After this, I'm not sure. I'll probably try to fly down to Sydney or something for the next contest, or down to Bell's, and just go from there. He says, well, he says, I'm with Bobby Owens and with Bernie Crouch from New Smyrna. And he says, we got a really cool 1962 Ford Falcon with a two-tone paint job. He says, why don't you jump in with us? And I go, hey. I said, let me think about it. We got excellent surfers in Bobby Owens, Mark Fu, and Bernie Crouch. And I said, oh, I really got to think about this. I said, where do I sign up? And so the next day, the contest was over, and we piled up this Ford Falcon, and there must have been 12 surfboards on the roof. And Mark says, I know this place. There's a great surf spot that's like a secret island north of there. And so I said, okay, no problem, just go. So we load up the car, we're heading up there. And so it comes to find out that this island is the shark fishing capital of the world. So, but I didn't know this, unbeknownst to me. So we get there, and there was not much surf, and we went to the local beach club, and the wall is covered with shark jaws. And I'm talking tiger sharks, bronze whalers, black tips, you name it. Everything was there, the whole crew. So I said, okay, well, that's interesting. And so I didn't think too much more about it. I go, in those days when you're young, you're sort of just put your head down and you go, right? So we're out shooting water shots this day, and surf wasn't that great. And I finally said, you know what, I finished the roll, and I went back into the beach, and I swim in, and I get out of the water, and I'm standing there. And then Mark catches the next wave and comes in on the beach and goes, hey, Darrell, what are you doing? I said, well, I finished the roll, but it's really not that good, Mark. I'm going to maybe just kind of sit it out the rest of the way. He goes, oh, okay. He says, I guess I can tell you. I said, what's that, Mark? He says, there was a huge shark swimming around out there. And I look at him. I was like dumbfounded. I just said, you're kidding me. I said, why didn't you tell me? He said, well, I was afraid you'd go in. And I'm thinking, really? And then he looks at me, and Mark is Chinese descent, right? And so Mark looks at me and says, well, everybody knows. He says, once you eat Chinese food, you're hungry in 15 minutes, so he wasn't going to bother with me. And I'm thinking, oh, that's great, Mark. I'm sitting there swimming the water up to my chin, treading water, and he's on a surfboard at least. And no, anyways, but we had a great trip up and down the East Coast. We got multiple covers and center spreads, and we would go to the next event at Bell's, and I was getting the film process as we go. But it was one of these magical trips that no matter where we went, we were getting good surf. And we're getting great images. So I'd get the film, send the film to Sydney, to the Kodak lab at the time. This pre-digital. And so, you know, we get the film back and I'd put them in sleeves and we get to the next event and I kind of pull them out and show some of the pro surfers. And they're going, where did you guys go? Where did you get these waves? But every single place we went to, it was just nonstop. We were killing it. And, you know, we ended up just having a remarkable time and it was a great experience. And Bernie Crouch, I don't know if many people know him, a few from Central Florida here. Anyways, he's a great surfer, and he was a wild man. He's always been known as Mad Dog. That's a label of his surfboards. And so there was nothing more fearful than when Bernie was going to drive. And he would jump into the front seat, and Mark and I would fight each other for who was going to get in the back seat. And we would leave Bobby Owens to the shotgun, and you know, it was a very perilous position to be in. And Bernie, it had 3 speeds on the column, and Bernie would just get this look in his eye, and he would just go flying through the streets of Sydney, and kids were just jumping out of the way. I mean, I was terrified, and Mark is looking at me and shaking his head, and there was no way he was going to relinquish the back seat. So, but we truly had a remarkable trip, and you know, just the stories of all my buddies here. The Galapagos. I grew up about 60 miles from Hunter, and I had known his name just through colleagues. And, you know, you don't forget a name like Hunter Joslin, right? And so I'm on the cliff in Uluwatu, 12,000 miles away in Bali. And who walks up? With this guy to introduce himself. So, and then anytime he had a harebrained idea of someplace that might have surf, he would come to me and go, let's go. So, anyways, I give thanks for your friendship, and it's been years. We haven't even seen each other in probably 10 years. And we appreciate everything he does for the industry. Okay. With that being said, thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to my colleagues, and you guys can actually get dinner tonight. Okay?